Skyrim is quite possibly the greatest role-playing game ever made. With its brilliantly crafted world, game design, and player experience, I don't think I'm wrong to say that. I have played a lot of role-playing games, but I always find myself going back to this absolute masterpiece. It seems like everywhere you look, that role-playing game was somehow inspired by Skyrim. It brought a groundbreaking new flaw that game developers would have to meet, and has only brought more and more ripples throughout the industry since its absolute bomb release back in 2011 for the Xbox 360 and PS3. In this video, I want to look into why Skyrim is such a landmark video game that changed the trajectory for game development to this day. Back when Skyrim first released, it was applauded for its absolute breathtaking scope and ambition with its meticulously crafted world design, receiving many high reviews such as IGN's 9.5 out of 10 or GameSpot's 9 out of 10. Everybody was loving Skyrim. This was evident in the absolute breathtaking sales response. According to Otaku, within 2 days after the game's launch, 3.4 million physical copies were sold, and of those sales, 59% were for the Xbox 360, 27% for the PS3, and 14% for the PC. In the first week of release, Bethesda stated that 7 million copies of the game have been shipped to retailers worldwide, and that total sales through the following Wednesday are expected to generate an estimated $450 million. By December 2011, this had risen to 10 million units shipped to retail and around $620 million generated. According to Todd Howard, Skyrim has sold over 60 million units by the end of 2023, making around $800 million from this one IP, with 4 different official releases for it. These being the original release in 2011, Skyrim Special Edition in 2016 for next generation consoles, Skyrim VR in 2017 for a completely new way to experience Tamriel, and finally Skyrim Anniversary Edition in 2021 in celebration for its 10-year anniversary. During the first day of release, Steam showed over 230,000 people playing Skyrim concurrently. Shortly after its release, Skyrim was the most played game on Steam by a huge margin, and even to this day with an average 25,000 players, which is more than the AAA bomb Overwatch 2. In my opinion, the reason why Skyrim is such an amazing game is because of its ability to craft such an unbelievable world and offer a high quality source for the player's escapism. There is a reason why games such as Dungeons & Dragons are so popular as they are, and that's because of escapism. In Skyrim, you start off as a nobody, somebody who no one would even bother to look at twice, and end the game as a heroic god with the power to slay ginormous enemies. According to Oxford, escapism is defined as the tendency to seek distraction and relief from unpleasant realities, especially by seeking entertainment or engaging in fantasy. In this video, I'm going to look into how Skyrim pulls this off so well and how other games have adopted its ability to do it. Firstly is looking at how the game begins, with a nameless character being brought into a castle to be processed. The player's name is never said, and their model is never shown, making it easier to instantly imprint yourself into this role. You are slowly eased into this world with light amounts of lore being explained and an easy to digest area. In my opinion, this works a lot better than games like Cyberpunk 2077, as that game's prologue is almost entirely focused on showing V's life. Cyberpunk wants you to feel like you are living in Night City, but if you can't connect with V as a character, you probably won't enjoy the game as much as other people. In Skyrim, you are quite literally a blank slate. You have no connections or previous commitments to anybody in the playable world. The only thing you get to decide early on is how your character is going to look, another incredible way to ease the player into embracing the escapism. One of the most common aspects of an RPG is a stats slider at the beginning of the game. This could be a combination of what makes your character particularly good at something. In Skyrim, you don't get a stat slider like other RPGs to help mold your character into a particular build, such as the Souls games for instance, which give you a large selection of playable classes that change your armor, weaponry, and skills that will affect the rest of your playthrough. You need practically no previous knowledge about how this game functions, as everybody at the beginning stage starts with the exact same acquirable loot pool and skills. This is one of the other incredible aspects of Skyrim. The introduction has easy to understand encounters, but is hard enough to be at the very least a slight struggle on higher difficulties, making it engaging for all skill levels of the player. No early game decision really influences your late game build, giving the player ample time to get to understand the game's mechanics and pick a build route that is best for them. Skyrim is amazing at giving the player any build they want, and that is most evident with how they tackle the skill tree. The skill tree is divided into 3 major sections, those being the mage, the warrior, and the thief. Instantly, the player can identify what these sections are probably going to allow the player to do just by their names alone and linking them to characters in media. However, where it gets more interesting is the fact that each of these big trees have 6 separate smaller trees, each revolving around their header's name. The mage has illusion, conjuration, destruction, restoration, alteration, and enchanting. The warrior has smithing, heavy armor, block, two-handed, one-handed, and archery. The thief has light armor, sneak, lockpicking, pickpocket, speech, and alchemy. Each of these sections are straight to the point with its naming and easy to understand. You also have probably figured out how to level these stats up before you even access this menu, as the game gives you a large notification whenever you have done something that relates to the skill. For instance, hit a guy with an arrow, well, you've just gained XP in the archery skill. Once your skill is high enough, you can use skill points to gain a powerful ability that relates to that skill, or just generally deal more damage. Nothing in the skill tree is hard to understand, and just by playing the game you'll probably lean into a playstyle / build naturally because of the way you leveled up originally. Once again, I'll relate this back to Cyberpunk, where you have to pick individually what skills you want to level and what abilities you want. It's entirely focused on player choice rather than natural player action. This can lead to a player feeling really aimless with how to get stronger because the player does not know what abilities will help them right now. It's more like, oh, in 10 levels I can get one ability that looks cool to what I want to do, but right now I have to go through all these boring skills that don't ultimately matter to my build by the end game. This is fine if the player is going into the game with previous knowledge or a build in mind, but can be quite daunting and discerning for a more casual audience. This is why I think Skyrim is so much better at it. No matter what, just playing the game you will find something that works for you. In Cyberpunk, the most powerful equipment you can obtain is cyberware, which can only be purchased from specific vendors dotted around the map. Not only is this incredibly missable, but because the merchants don't share most items, it almost requires a wiki to make a proper build. In Skyrim, this is the exact opposite. Most, if not all, of the higher quality gear is locked behind dungeons or quests, not a random merchant you didn't speak to. In conclusion, Skyrim remains to this day one of the greatest RPGs ever created. Its enduring success can be attributed to its ability to craft a world that feels both alive and boundless, offering players the freedom to explore and experience it in their own way. The mechanics are intuitive and the natural progression ensures accessibility for players of all skill levels. This seamless blend of freedom and immersion allows individuals to truly lose themselves in this game and embrace the escapism it so effortlessly provides. Even after all these years, few games have managed to replicate the magic that Skyrim delivers. It established a new benchmark for what RPGs could achieve, thanks to its exceptional world building, rewarding gameplay, and the opportunity for players to create their own unique stories. Skyrim is not merely a game, it is an experience that continues to captivate players and will undoubtedly remain a beloved classic for years to come.